Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ichoma Kehenya. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button below. Anyways, today I will be talking about all those misconceptions that surround IVF. We're gonna be dispelling all those myths so you and your family can have a better understanding what IVF is and in turn make a better decision for you and your family. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was once a believer of some of these myths, or I experienced it personally coming from somebody else. And although I'm not an expert in this particular subject, I'm talking to you through some of the experience I had and also research that research that I am doing right now to bring to you some of the things that I didn't experience personally. I am learning just like you, so I am not an expert on this particular subject. I am just learning just like you guys as well. Anyways, one of the misconceptions, I guess, myths that I actually believe that almost affected my decision to go through this journey was the fact that I thought it was too expensive for me to afford. Because when you hear about IVF, all you hear about is like the celebrities that are talking about it, you know, rich people, people that have money, that are talking about going through it. Anyways, for me, I have heard a lot about it from TV, from celebrities that are going through it. So when the first thing that went to my mind, one of the first things that went through my mind when I was making a decision to go through this journey was, can we afford it? This just sounds like something like only rich people can afford. You know, if I didn't do my own research, you know, I wouldn't have known that it's something that I could possibly afford, you know. Anyways, it almost actually affected our decision. We almost stopped before we even started. So in Canada, IVF will cost you between 10 to 15 grand. If you include things like consultation, extra testing, that can push it to like 20 grand. So I will suggest that if you are going through this journey, you need to do your own research. Make sure that you include every single thing that can cost you extra money. You know, things like if you are going out of town to do this kind of procedure, you need to consider, how am I getting there? Like plane tickets, are you driving there, gas money you have to eat, you need a hotel to stay in. All these will cost you extra money, and if you don't budget it, you're gonna get there and you're gonna be like, oh my god, I don't have enough money. You know, you're gonna be in trouble. So I would suggest doing your own research, talking to your doctor, getting books. Is just as simple as Googling all this information. Is on Google. Just get your research done and get your budgeting in order before you go through this. If you are in the US, this will cost you an average of 23 grand. And again, remember, if you're doing extra testing, let's say for example, a genetic test will cost you extra money. And again, consider where you're gonna stay if you are out of town. You know, those things will cost you extra money. So don't forget to budget. And again, what I'm trying to say is, like, even though this is not too expensive, it's not too expensive, but at the same time, it's not cheap. But it's not something that is out of reach for the average person. It's something that you can save with careful budgeting and planning. Is doable. The next myth I'm gonna talk about that I feel like also affected me personally was the fact that I thought that it will cost me to have multiple children. Honestly, the first thing that comes in mind when you hear about IVF is usually like, oh, octomom, you know. So honestly, the first thing that came in mind was not just the fact that it could be too expensive for us that we can't afford it. One of the other things that came in mind was like, oh my god, Octomom, I don't want more than 2 babies, because all I wanted was 2 more babies, you know. But although there are cases of multiple births, the medical profession actually recommend 1 implant, embryo implant. So they recommend 1 embryo transfer. Actually, when I was going through my process, when it was time to do my embryo transfer, they asked me, do you want 1 embryo, or that is, you have a higher odd of it coming full-time healthy and all, or do you want maybe 2 twins, maybe 1 baby, maybe none, you know? So because I wanted them to implant 2 babies, because then I don't have to go through another one of this process again. But they told me, like, you have pretty much tell me you have a higher chance of having a baby for sure with 1 embryo transfer. So of course, for me, the first thing I thought was like, oh my god, well, at least 1 baby is better than nothing or any other complication. Let me just transfer 1 embryo and just be safe. So that's what I did. So if somebody is trying to tell you, or if you think that going through IVF is gonna result in multiple births, that is actually not the case. That's not the reality. In fact, they actually recommend you transfer as maybe 1 or 2. They don't recommend multiple embryo transfer. So I will talk about the 3rd myth that you might experience or you might hear about, and I suggest you don't let this defer you, because I know a lot of you guys might have a full-time employment that you would think that, okay, I'm gonna spend a lot of time in the hospital, which is not the reality. Honestly, the only time I spent in the hospital wasn't really time. It was during my egg collection, and I was there until my eggs was collected, and then I rested a bit, and then I was able to drive back home. And also after embryo transfer, I was actually told to be on a bed rest for half an hour. Then I was able to drive back home, and then I was on bed rest for like 24 hours, and then you will have to take it easy, of course, the next couple of days. But besides that, there will be no like days hospital admission for you, you know. Honestly, I thought I was gonna be in the hospital for quite a long time. I even budgeted staying in a hotel where I was doing my procedure, because it was not in my town. So honestly, there is no long time, unless you have a unless if you have like a special circumstances, and then you have to do like extra procedure, then that's when you might, but then you will know what your circumstances is, and they will inform you of what they are expected of you before you actually go through the whole process. So just keep in mind, hospital admission is not gonna be an issue, because you spend very little time during your like, you can of course be going in and out, like when you are taking the IVF medication, because then they're gonna check the maturity or the growth of your eggs to make sure everything is going along the way they want. But you go home right after that, you know. So do not let that stop you from making this decision. Again, I suggest research. Make sure that you get your own information. I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, because I do not want this kind of myth, like, you know, to affect people's decision, because I know that it almost affected some of my decision making. So keep in mind that this is not something that is gonna keep you at the hospital for a very long time, you know. So the next myth I would like to discuss is actually the fact that many will just make assumption that IVF is 100% guarantee. They just assume. Actually, we have somebody tell my husband, don't you just go there and they put the implant there and then you come out with baby or something, like it's just something easy. There's no other procedure. There's no like there's nothing to it pretty much. So anyways, you are probably going to have a lot of these assumptions. You're gonna hear people telling you a lot of these things, but in reality, anyways, before I actually start talking about it, I would like to say, of course IVF have a higher odds of it being successful. It's about 40% odds, and like if you do genetic testing, that odd even increases. But keep in mind that if you are conceiving naturally, if you're a healthy couple conceiving naturally and under 35, your odds of conceiving per month is 15 to 25%. But if you're doing IVF, your odds, if you're 35 and under, is about 40%. Yes, there's a higher risk, higher odds of you conceiving with IVF, 40%. However, it's important to keep in mind that it depends on what your situation is. It depends on what your fertility issues are. It depends on what your age is. If you are older, like it's gonna be, your odds is gonna decrease the older you are. It also depends on biological and hormonal factors. You need to consider all these things. Do not just assume that if you go through IVF that you're gonna have a baby. But at the same time, do not give up. I'm just trying to get you to understand that it's important to know both sides. It's important to have all the facts so you are not disappointed if something doesn't go the way you want. Next week we will discuss the rest of the myths. Until then, stay blessed. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, share, like, and comment. Have a blessed week. Bye now.